Uh, I wanted to make a video about the the things that I think are important for uh, any anyone. There are some things that I think people need to educate themselves on, and they are the most important things for going forward in the future. So, um, we, I don't think that we live. Most people do not see the degree to which AI has uh, advanced. It's hard to see for most people because the observation is dependent on uh, the the size of the feedback loop that you're in. So there are different sizes, and the iteration time is lower. It varies in different for different people with different properties and in different industries. Like I'm in software, so I have an advantage in the ability to predict things because there are no barriers to entry aside from, well, there are very few barriers to trying to increase the speed of that iteration loop, and um, so so that allows you to. An example of this would be um, if I get feedback immediately because I've written tests that tell me through a compiler or through some function that I run whether the decision that I made was right, that's easier. That's an easier way to go into the path of the future that you want out of all of the possible futures, because um, that that's important at all scales. So if I have a function, it's beneficial to me to write a test that checks whether the function is useful to. It's a detection for where I'm shooting myself in the foot. So maybe an example would be if it was a frying pan and I wanted to make a new, a better frying pan, and I start going, you know what, it needs more, it needs to be heavier because then it has better heat distribution. And so then I go and buy a new frying pan, and then it serves my use better because I'm thinking about cooking steaks or something, and so I want to have a higher, temperature and quickly, right? So imagine I then throw out the frying pan and go and go and buy a new frying pan that's better, and then go and cook eggs the next day, or my wife goes and cooks eggs the next day, and yeah, my wife, that'd be a better example. Then she maybe can't lift it, and I didn't consider that, and so I shot myself in the foot in a sense, and so that is a comparison with the speed reiteration loops between in different sectors, right? Go and make a good frying pan. Go and be a good husband. You want to it's harder to see because it takes more time for me to go and assess where I made the mistakes because I don't have the convenience that I have in software. Because in software, what I would do in that situation is make a test, and it's called a regression test. So if I have a feature that I want and I write that, or Joy, my wife, writes that that it needs to be light and easy to handle. Um, it's either that I thought of the feature, or it's not, or someone else that I care about thought of the feature, or they didn't. But whatever, it's a test, and if you can make sure that you formalize it and say, yeah, I didn't break that thing that either I or someone else in the house had previously either set their they chose the frying pan. Maybe if Joy chose the frying pan, maybe she didn't tell me that she chose a light one and I didn't consider it either. Maybe I want a light frying pan as well. Maybe neither of us considered it, and we see that the problem after the heavy skillet I buy causes a problem, then we make the test then. But if it's in software, then I can click a button, and then I can ensure that the amount of regression is minimized. And it's a principle, and a large amount of time goes into generating these tests, finding out where the regression was, and trying to minimize that and identify your blind spots. And it's a luxury in software because it's cheap. It doesn't cost the cost of a fry pan to see that. And so in comparison to something that's got an infinitely big feedback loop, which would be something where you don't realize it's completely out of your control. So predicting, some people go to the casino and maybe you figure out a way to actually cheat the casino. Like maybe you have someone on the inside who flicks the ball in the roulette table to, maybe they can predict better than you where it will land, something like that. That's not what I'm talking about though. Someone that says that they statistically can beat the casino is it's by definition, the casino makes the odds of them finding the iteration loop a successful actual iteration loop. The goal of the casino is to increase the time that they spend in a loop. They have odds. They are saying that the odds, if you play this game enough, will be in our favor. We know you know that, but you're going to be looking for iteration loops here, but you wouldn't put it that way. So if you can identify the times that you're in that situation where you think you can beat the odds of another agent, you're an agent, they're an agent, the casino, you have a goal and they have a goal. That's all that means. Well, I'll get back to agency in a minute. It's three components, so that's one of the components actually. I should have said it like that. Anyway, if people see the world through this lens, it's a beneficial lens because it's the lens is concentrate on the way that you can improve the properties of the world towards your goal. So I'm saying, not out of ego, but it's a fact that software has fewer barriers to entry for understanding the value of that definition. And in the real world, it is pulled into software, as in we have simulations of real world of designs. The reason that they are useful is because of this thing that I'm saying. You can iterate more quickly. You can see actually I have an example of this thing. Okay. This is a baby carrier that has an annoying seatbelt on it, right? Now, it's just that it gets folded in a weird way. It doesn't really matter what the problem is, but you can imagine that it's very nice, okay? But the person that was trying to solve the seatbelt problem is probably on iteration loop number 100 or 1,000 or something or other. There definitely, for every product, was a much larger number of iteration loops than most people would realize. And the thing that a lot of people would say is, God damn it, why didn't they just fix this? Why didn't they make this fucking seatbelt a little bit different so that it doesn't get folded over in a way that's really annoying. And that's because of a lack of understanding of the complexity of making the little seatbelt, because the number of degrees that the seatbelt causes harm goes up. Essentially, you need a complete understanding of the world in order to make a good seatbelt, because there'll be a squirrel in Tanzania that gets, that thinks that that's a thing that's, like it happens to, the plastic gives off a thing that looks like a pheromone to that freaking squirrel or whatever, right? Or, okay, there's a beetle in Australia, I think, if I remember right, the green beer bottles that are in the outback, and it looks like another beer bottle, and it looks like a beetle, and then they go and try to have sex with it, and it's affecting the beetle population in a negative way. So that's such a, like, how can you did the people that designed that beer bottle understand that was a problem? They really need a complete understanding of the world, something close to that at least, for someone to be able to come in and say, that's not a good bottle design, because, man, don't you understand what that'll do to the beetle population? Same way as this, like, it has to be that we believe that this is a good seat for the things that we find are important to protect our child. Like, maybe there's something poisonous in the seatbelt. Maybe it's hard to mass manufacture, and so it would cost way more. Maybe it would tear after a certain amount of time because of an interaction with some chemical in milk. I don't know. That's a bad example, actually. But the point is that it's really hard to see, and it's really easy to make an assumption about that. And the reason and the way that you find out why that's true is proportional to the iteration size, the iteration loop time. And so simulations are very powerful here, because the person that designed the seatbelt, if they had a video of me using the product that they designed in a simulation, but it's a perfect representation of my experience, true to his prediction in his brain their prediction in their brain of their why that's a good product, and what choices they made in order to get the make a better thing. They really were striving for that, and it's just that there was always a choice what thing it needs. What was my audio transmitter is at 110% battery. I think that said one. Okay, that was 10% battery left. Damn, that's not very good. I've got 1/4 of the battery of this left because it was at 40% at the start. That's close to the end of this part. The next part would be agency. After saying why agency and iteration loops are very closely tied. Go and identify the times that you can look at iteration loops in order to increase the speed that you can adapt to the things in an unknown world. You're going to be stuck there. You're going to be stuck if you don't know how to find the ways to adapt. And stuck doesn't mean, like, you don't need to want to keep up. I happen to be enthusiastic about it, but if you want to be it's stressful, it can be stressful, and it can be exciting, and it's a trade-off. And I'm in a good space in my own life to be able to look at this. At the same time, it's stressful because I'm in software. The other way that this prediction is helpful, and when I communicate this, is that I can see this propagates down the loop time So it's easier for me to see the future and see how it is ridiculously unpredictable, because the speed that things have been changing in software has gone, you might think that it depends how familiar you are with the field, but you think, oh yeah, it's always increasing. It's not the same now. It's not the same at all. The way that it was increasing before was just an exponential. It's okay. That means you're kind of going up this rope of understanding continuously, and you get comfortable with doing that. Now it's not it's faster by a lot than an exponential. I don't know what degree of exponential it is, but that means you see things like this. Someone will do the test that I was just talking about, and they'll do a commit to get, it's like you save a file, you save a thing, and you say the test's passed, and then you see a bunch of ticks on the, your tests all went through, the frying pan wasn't too heavy, or whatever tests you don't want to forget later and realize that your software was good in one way, but you also screwed yourself, you shot yourself in the foot in another way that you forgot about because it was 3 years ago, because that was when you did the last iteration on that part of the software. It's not just about other people, it's about yourself too. So then how fast have I seen that change in software? People have used to make, I don't know, a commit a day, a commit a week, maybe. I probably shouldn't use the word commit, but it doesn't matter really. People do this now, thousands of new features a day. So it's gone, imagine that, and there's no cost. So imagine that you go from a world where you can walk at 3, if it's, you do 3 accomplishments a day. And that's the number of accomplishments that you have had for your entire career, because your understanding kind of kept up with it and you weren't lost. Now it's not possible to not get lost. You are just, if you want, spend 100% of your time trying to understand how you see someone make 1,000 commits and you're only making 100 commits a day. And so you feel, in one sense, like, I cannot believe how far behind and how different the world is in comparison to the perspective that most people have of the world. And at the same time, you're so dramatically behind. You're so dramatically behind the guy, the person that's doing the 100 commits or 1,000 commits. This is a bit of a misnomer. It doesn't matter. You can see what I'm trying to say. 100 tested productive changes. It's getting further. So a definition. I'll end here because I think this is going to end the battery in a second. But the definition of intelligence is at least a good definition of intelligence that I think it's a really good definition, is how likely you are to complete a goal. An IQ test is trying to test for as many goals as you can, and how many of them can you accomplish, and if you can think in a way that gets you an answer in a particular amount of time, then that's a definition of general intelligence, right? So to do that, it has to have a test, because then you can score it. And I happen to be in an industry that's extremely proficient at testing. And so the intelligence level of any the degree to which you can get any task done towards your agency, whatever your goal is, has gone through the roof.